welcome to AZ Wordsmiths Prose Open Mic Night. My name is Lee Reeves, and I'm one of the organizers of this event, along with Sue Fabia, who you met at the door, Janet Hopkins, who you've probably met but is not here tonight, and Stephen Kartstein, who is our recorder tonight, and also you can't hear me, okay? Is this better?
Yes.
Okay, who is also deserves a big thank you because of his perseverance. We are now a 501c3. Isn't that cool? Our intention is to create a warm, welcoming, friendly, encouraging atmosphere. So please don't feel a need to get up and make excuses and I understand the temptation because I always think about it like, this isn't quite right yet. We're a friendly audience and we don't need to do that. We're also here to offer chances for writers to get to know each other in this welcoming setting. And we want to entertain you the old-fashioned way, in person, with real words from real people, which is a nice change, right? So the format for the evening is as follows. We begin with our featured author. After that, we will draw names from those who have signed up, and we have a lot tonight. You have up to 10 minutes to read. And instead of me signaling you, you're gonna hear a noise. And I really want to stress that because we do have a lot of readers tonight, and we want to include them all. And we've decided to try something different tonight, thanks to you, Tom. We're gonna do a short intermission, but you can't leave. We're checking, we're gonna be checking on who leaves, especially if you've already read. Just a short intermission to go to the restroom if you want to get a coffee, to get a cookie. It'll just be 5 minutes or so. We'll do it, a little more than halfway through this. We're just trying it. When you get up, Sue will be drawing names, I think you know that. And when you get up to read, introduce yourself and give some context for the piece you intend to read. Not too much, but enough to let people know what it's about. If it's in the middle of a book or something. So we do encourage audience members to applaud, and a reminder to silence your cell phones. So now it is my pleasure to introduce Leslie Zann. Many of you have had the opportunity to meet her. She's been here quite a few times. Since founding Leslie Zann Consulting in 2012, Leslie's had the privilege of speaking live to more than 100,000 people around the world and has reached thousands more through her online courses. Leslie's mission is to motivate people to get unstuck, stop settling for less when they desire and live their best life. Let me rephrase that. Stop settling for less than they desire and live their best life at any age. Her latest book, Outrageous Achievement, is the #1 international bestseller on Amazon. She is now working on her next book, Inspired Retired, How to Live Your Best Life at Any Age. Leslie moved to Prescott in 2022 to be closer to her mom. Our time together is priceless. We're more like sisters than mother-daughter. I love the town, the community, and the lifestyle. It's a great place to work and live, and Leslie is very happy to be here. And those are her words. And we're glad that you like it here.
I'm happy.
You can't leave. Leslie developed a solid reputation locally. She's available to speak to your corporate team, community group, or fundraising event. She can be reached at lesliezann@gmail.com. And I'm sure that you can find more about her at the table back there after the event, or even at our first intermission. So with that, let's give Leslie a warm up.
Trying to decide if you were taller than me that much, but I think the mic is just perfect for me. Can y'all hear?
Yep.
I'm gonna stand. I'm just gonna come a little bit closer. Is that good? All right, super. So I launched Outrageous Achievement. We published it in February, on my birthday, February 23rd in 2021. It was the middle of the pandemic, and I just wasn't prepared to wait till the end of the pandemic because who knew how long that was going to be. And so I'm gonna read some, as been here in the past, I've read some stories, some really fun personal stories. I think I read my singing story, I think I read my flying trapeze story, I think I read my skydive story. You're gonna learn more about me tonight, that part's in the book where I talk about my journey. So this is from Outrageous Achievement. As I move to each chapter, I'll let you know what chapter. So I'm gonna begin with chapter 2. And the title of chapter 2 is Settle Not. And this is a segment from that chapter. When I deliver my keynote on developing the mindset of a champion, there's one topic in particular that always generates an immediate visceral response from the audience. And this happens whether I'm speaking from the stage or an online course. The topic is settling. And it's the act of settling for less than we want, less than we expect, less than we deserve. I've experienced the turmoil of settling in my career, in relationships, with my health and creative expression. And every time it bit me in the ass, I wondered, how the heck did I miss this? How could I have let this happen? Why didn't I see it coming? I was at a corporate leadership conference listening to author and world champion public speaker Craig Valentine. About 20 minutes into his presentation, he posed a question to the audience that literally changed my life. He asked, "Are you letting your good enough get in the way of your great?" In my head, a percussionist was pounding on his kettle drums. Each boom felt like a punch in my stomach. Silent tears began streaking down my cheeks. I realized this wasn't going to be a pretty girl cry. I was going to lose it, ugly style, all eyes on the room and me style. I bolted from the ballroom and ran to my room, and before the door even closed behind me, I was face down on the bed sobbing. I cried for something like 45 minutes. It was all just pouring out of seemingly nowhere. Finally, I got up, dried my eyes, blew my nose, and sat at the desk, staring at my sad face in the mirror. I knew I wouldn't be returning to the conference. What was the point? Nothing else Valentine had to say could top that. I couldn't tell how long I sat there lost in my grief. And what was I mourning anyway? I'll tell you what. A life unfulfilled, that's what. I realized that day there were many areas in my life that, yes, I was letting my good enough get in the way of my great. And like in the movie Network, I wanted to scream, I'm mad as hell and I'm not gonna take it anymore. But where to start and what to do? I did what I always do in times of confusion and despair. I grabbed a pen and paper and furiously scribbled off some notes. Those initial thoughts, however vague and without solutions, laid the groundwork for what would become my blueprint for transformation. We're going to now jump to chapter 3, which is called The Law of Attraction, and this is a segment from that chapter. The timing for launching my speaking business in February 2012 would not have penciled out rationally in any reasonable business plan. The country was in the middle of a debilitating recession. I was newly divorced. In addition, I bought our home in the divorce and had a big mortgage to pay. Yes, I had fears, and yet I moved through them one by one. How? By tapping into the law of attraction. My vision for a successful business was bigger than my fears. After I wrote my business plan, I reached out to a small group of successful speakers I knew in the industry, and I asked for their thoughts about going out on my own. Everyone, in their own words, basically told me the same thing. They didn't think the timing was right. They all felt I had the skill, experience, and drive to succeed, and yet the consensus was there just wasn't enough business out there. If these well-known speakers were not getting gigs, how was a newbie like me going to successfully launch her business in an economy that was bad and getting worse? The reasonable move was to take another corporate gig until the economy picked back up. And yet in my mind, in my heart, I wanted to take the leap. I wanted to live my dream. I wanted to create my speaking business right now. I decided I would not come from a mindset of scarcity. I refused to focus on all the reasons or ways I could fail. Instead, I put an intense focus on all the reasons why I could succeed. Again, I was putting the law of attraction into practice. I just knew it was my time and nothing could hold me back. I made my decision on a Sunday morning. I was sitting on the sofa enjoying a cup of tea while considering my options. Corporate job recruiters had been calling every week offering me field development positions. In fact, I'd moved through the hiring process with 3 different companies, and each of them had made me an attractive offer. And yet in my heart, I knew I'd be settling, taking the easy way out, accepting a job solely for the money at the sacrifice of not getting to experience the full measure of my creativity. Just because I could doesn't mean I should, damn it, I exclaimed. Another corporate gig is not in my vision. And to test my resolve, I had the imaginary angel and devil on each shoulder. The angel implored, follow your heart. You can do this. This is your time. Go for it. The devil whispered in my ear every fear and limiting belief he could muster. You heard the professionals, the timing isn't right. What if nobody wants to work with you? It's gonna take months, even years to build a clientele. How will you pay the bills? You're afraid of one right now. How will you do this on your own? You don't have a clue how to market yourself or develop a brand or build a business. Who do you think you are? Go on, take the corporate gig. Make this easy on yourself. No, I screamed out loud, standing and stamping my foot for emphasis. I will not steal my own dream. I will not sell my soul short again. In that moment, I made a decision. I decided I wouldn't go into this casually. I wouldn't give myself a mulligan. I wouldn't try, knowing that if it didn't work out, I could take a do-over and fall back on a corporate gig. I was going to move forward with 100% emotional commitment. Chapter 6. This is called Conscious Change. And there's different segments in this chapter, and there's a segment on core values, and this is a segment from the core value section. I'm convinced that in order to achieve in any area of our lives, we must embrace discipline. For me, discipline has always been my secret sauce, a key factor in my success. It started at age 8. I was infatuated with gymnastics. In class, I practiced alongside 2 other girls. Alexa was perfect for gymnastics, fast, flexible, and fearless, a blur of energy. There was no trick she couldn't do. Pam was thin and graceful. She too mastered all the hard tricks and looked like a ballerina as she performed them. And then there was me, short, below average leg strength, and limited flexibility. How did I get to stay in the class? What I lacked in physical ability, I made up for in discipline. I always showed up on time, I practiced full out. If I couldn't master a trick, it only fueled me to try harder. My first nemesis was an aerial. This is a cartwheel without touching your hands to the floor. After weeks of failure, I finally landed one. Now, my head may have just barely cleared the mat, but hey, I did it. That's my first memory of focused discipline. After that, nothing was impossible if I set the discipline to do it. In high school, it seemed everyone but me had a car, and I wanted one real bad. So I applied for a job at the pizzeria. 5 days a week, I'd take the bus to work after school. I did my homework on the bus, and I worked until 9 p.m. Every week, I put money in a savings account until I had enough and proudly bought my first car, a Ferrari Testarossa. Just kidding, it was a Honda Civic. In college, one of my classes was calculus. I just didn't get it. So what did I do? I hired a tutor. He met with me 3 nights a week to help me work through the formulas. I studied a solid hour every day and nailed an A on my final exam. I still don't know what calculus is about, but that's a whole other story. Discipline is the catalyst for accomplishment in all areas of our life. Without it, people tend to make excuses to avoid activities that move them out of their comfort zone. It's just too easy to procrastinate. It's just too easy to throw in the towel and quit. Now we're going to jump to chapter 6, personal development. And this is the opening chapter. And just as a little aside, I wrote this chapter while I was at a yoga retreat in Puerto Vallarta. And I was sitting on my deck on a chair overlooking the ocean, taking some time to do some writing, and a butterfly landed on my laptop. And then I wrote the opening to this chapter. One day, the caterpillar knows it's time to make the shift. So it hangs itself upside down from a twig and spins the silky cocoon. Within its protective casing, the caterpillar radically transforms and emerges as a butterfly. For me, this is the perfect analogy for my ongoing personal development practice. One day, I knew it was time to make a shift. I was dissatisfied with certain areas of my life, so I turned my perception of what's possible upside down, demanding I want my life to be different and better. I spun a cocoon of determination to redesign my life. My transformation began with a commitment to personal development, and through the process, I radically reconstructed my life. And here's the best part. Unlike the butterfly, who gets just one transformation, I continue to use personal development to renovate my life over and over again. It's rejuvenating, and you can choose for yourself to start today. In my experience, not a lot of people know this incredibly valuable secret. To keep your mind fresh and open to new ideas, make personal development an important part of your day. It's simple yet powerful, and it opens the door to infinite potential while enriching the quality of your life at the same time. And then in that chapter, I go on to lay out a whole bunch of different ways you can create a personal development practice. Let's skip to chapter 9, automatic action. This is a segment from that chapter. And this segment is called Forgiveness is Freedom. After my husband betrayed me, I was overcome with confusion and grief. The man who I regarded as my best friend had let me down in one of the most devastating ways possible. For 15 years, his favorite term of endearment had been, I love you more every day. I'd saved countless anniversary, birthday, and Valentine's Day cards where he ended each letter of love with the same words, I love you more every day, until he didn't. As I moved through my grief, every personal development book I read insisted that forgiveness was necessary for healing a wounded soul. Conversely, a lack of forgiveness would keep me stuck. Intellectually, I understood that. I knew I did not want to become that stereotypical, angry, bitter, betrayed woman. I was open to the idea of forgiving John, and yet in the beginning, I was not prepared for the unconditional forgiveness self-help gurus say is the necessary ultimate. I thought that was my only option until I read How Can I Forgive You by Janice Abrams Spring, PhD. Janice's book taught me that I could start with acceptance. She writes, acceptance is a gutsy, life-affirming response to violation when the person who hurt you is unavailable or unrepentant, like John. Acceptance is based on a personal decision to take control of your pain, make sense of your injury, and carve out a relationship with the offender that works for you. That's me. So that's where I started. I accepted that John doesn't love me anymore. And that was the beginning of my long, very difficult, yet ultimately liberating journey to unconditional forgiveness. I ultimately understood that forgiveness is for the forgiver. By forgiving John, I found the freedom in me to come to terms with the past and make myself emotionally available to love again in the future. By taking charge of my thoughts, when Mr. Next presents himself, he will find me in a healthy state of mind, free to love again. And finally, chapter 10, prioritize your passions. And just a little bit about the writing process, there wasn't a chapter 10. When I finished chapter 9, I just had this urge. There was something about passions that I had to write. So I wrote my editor and said, there's going to be one more chapter. And chapter 10 came out. So this is a segment. Remember when for those of you that were here and I did the singing, I was afraid to sing and then I did the singing recital. This comes right after that segment where I overcame my fear to sing. Months later, while sharing this story with a friend, I realized how much I enjoyed singing. It's become a passion. I sing along at the top of my lungs during the Summer Pops concerts in the park. When my friends have a birthday, I actually call them up and sing to them, live, no more lip syncing. I even created a keynote where I sing to my audience. Honestly, there's still a moment of fright just before I start to sing in front of a group, but my passion supersedes my fear. A month after the recital, my friends Hilda and Carol came for a weekend visit. Over dinner, I shared the new me. Singing in front of that audience made me feel unbelievably vulnerable. It was nothing like when I'm speaking. I felt transparent and exposed in a way I never felt on stage before. It was almost paralyzing, and yet I pushed through it. You know, I could have gone the rest of my life missing out on the joy of singing. And it's so much more than that. I find myself thinking, what else am I missing? What other joys, new experiences, and undiscovered passions are out there just waiting for me to go after them? We stared at each other, all of us thinking the same thing. Good question. From now on, I pounded the table for emphasis. I want to boldly face the things that normally would scare me. I want to take bigger risks. I want more passion in my life. And we raised our glasses to passion.